and welcome to First Bite, our preview podcast for the Detroit Lions 2020 season. My name is Jeremy Reisman. I am the permanent host of First Bite, our preview podcast, which is mini-sized so that you can just listen to us on the way to work. A nice 30, 40-minute podcast, not like our full POD cast, but the whole podcast is devoted to the Lions' next game. This week, we've already made it to week 2, guys. It's all the way to week 2. It feels like the season is about 10 months long already after week 1's performance. But we're going, for all of you that are still listening, that are still engaged with the Lions after what happened last week, we appreciate you. We have a good show for us today. We have a nice Packers guest, which we'll get to in a minute. But first, let me introduce my co-host to my virtual right here. Ryan Matthews is with us. Ryan, how you doing, buddy?
I am tired, but I am ready to rock. Does that make sense?
Sure.
I hope so.
Why not?
Am I convincing enough? Okay.
It worked for me. Oh, my power just kind of went out. Am I still here? Do you see that?
Yeah, was that a little brownout?
I guess so. I don't know. We're still running, though. You can still hear me. So we're just going to keep going with it. Anyways, our Packers guest this week to give us the rundown of everything Green Bay is the wonderful friend of the show, Evan Tex Western, the managing editor of Acme Packing Company. My doppelganger, I guess, if I covered a good team.
Wait, those are some awfully kind words for a Packers fan coming from a Lions fan. So I appreciate that. That's very nice of you.
That's about as nice as I can be, I think, given everything that seems to happen with your franchise and how lucky you all seem to be. But let's jump into, before we get into what happened last week, before we get into this matchup, let's talk about the Packers offseason, because I found it kind of interesting. You know, the new GM, Brian Gutekunst, or however you say his last name, he kind of got a rep early on, like, okay, this guy's actually going to do stuff in the offseason. It's going to be exciting for Green Bay for once. They're going to be proactive. And then come this year, they kind of don't do anything. Am I wrong? Did I miss something?
No, there really wasn't a whole lot, certainly not in free agency. And I think part of that was just due to the big spending spree that they had last year, getting the Smith brothers, getting Adrian Amos, getting Billy Turner, spending all that money. And fundamentally, the Packers have a bunch of contracts coming up at the end of this season in the 2021 offseason that they're going to have to deal with. So I think that was a big reason for, basically the Packers going, sifting through the bargain bin really for the two major free agency acquisitions, if you can call it that. One of whom is, certainly very familiar to Lions fans in Rick Wagner. And then the other being Christian Kirksey, the linebacker formerly of the Browns. Just going with a fairly low dollar, kind of low risk, but possibly high reward deals for those two guys on 2-year deals to see if they can come in and give the Packers a little juice.
Well, aside from free agent acquisitions, we need to talk about the draft, because that is everybody's favorite topic with the Green Bay Packers. We need to talk about my favorite set of thick thighs in the NFL today. And we need to talk about the quarterback who didn't even suit up on week 1. So give me the lowdown. Like, we're not getting a lot out of these guys to begin, but it doesn't seem like that seems to be a problem for Green Bay.
No, I think this team was really counting on internal development from last year to this year. The receiving crew basically stayed entirely intact. The one other guy that they added was Devin Funchess, who opted out for COVID this year. So they're counting on Alan Lazard to take a big step forward as the number 2 to get Marquez Valdes-Scantling to be a quality number 3. But the fact that the Packers didn't draft a single receiver in this historic wide receiver class, it shocked everybody, Packers fans probably most of all, especially when they moved up and took Jordan Love in the first round. I had my eyes set on Brandon Ayuk the whole time, kind of coming down into the 20s. And then San Francisco reaches up and snags him at 25 and kind of, leaves me scratching my head a little bit. Thought maybe they might go for like a Michael Pittman or T. Higgins or somebody along those lines. But the Love pick just really felt like it came out of nowhere. And this is a very different situation than when the Packers drafted Aaron Rodgers in 2005. Rodgers was, one of the guys considered as the number 1 pick. fell all the way to 24, and not a guy whose ceiling was maybe in the high teens, and they moved up to get him like Love. And then you've also got the Favre factor, the Willie won't he with the retirement that had already been going on for a couple of years. Rodgers isn't given any of that right now. And so the situation doesn't really, seem to parallel very well to when Rodgers was drafted. But if this week one performance that Rodgers put up was any indication, this may be more akin to Tom Brady and Jimmy Garoppolo than anything else, if he can sustain that level of play. And that's going to be the big question.
Moving on to that thick-thighed running back that Ryan mentioned. Let's talk a little about A.J. Dillon. I have my own reservations, as our audience knows, about drafting a running back as high as the second round. Seems maybe even more curious for the Packers, considering they have Aaron Jones. They have an okay situation in their backfield. What was your reaction to that pick?
Yeah, that one was a bit of a shocker too. And again, there were some receivers on the board at the end of the second round that I thought could have been in play. Matt LaFleur had said at the Combine that he wants to have a three-headed running back monster in his room, and he wants three guys that he feels confident in, especially getting late in the season, playing outside in the elements in Green Bay. So I think this was part of that. But again, I think it was also maybe a little bit of a reaction to a couple of receivers coming off the board right before the Packers picked. Denzel Mims went off the board of the Jets 2 or 3 picks ahead, and so it sounds like that they're a team that always sticks to their board, right? And they're not going to reach for a receiver if they've got another guy rated more highly. So it's just right that the position, the fact that they've got solid players there at that position group already, and just the general valuing of running backs that this team has tended to do over the last 10, 15, 20 years. That threw all of us for a loop. And then the fact that he never really did anything as a receiver in college. That was maybe even the biggest shocker. But it sounds like in camp, his hands have been really good. Certainly the legs made a big deal that first day at camp when he showed up with the short shorts on. But the team really likes his hands and his potential receiving ability. I think they bought into the idea that Boston College just never really used him that way. It wasn't a part of their offense, and they think that he can pitch in there. But he certainly will be playing third fiddle to Aaron Jones and Jamal Williams. And I think he got 2 carries and like 5 snaps against Minnesota. Looked good. I think he took him for about 7 or 8 yards apiece. And he kind of showed that leg drive that you want to see from a guy with his physique. So long term, maybe he'll be a bell cow, maybe he'll be a complimentary guy if they re-sign Aaron Jones. But that's we'll see where that goes. And then honestly, I still think that the biggest maybe shocker was drafting an H-back in the 3rd round in Josiah Deguara, and he's the one who actually played the most of any of these guys on Sunday. They really like him in that kind of Kyle Juszczyk role. The way Shanahan uses him out in San Francisco, and they used him that way on Sunday. You'll see him lined up as a traditional fullback, as a wing, as a probably split out wide, put him in the slot. I mean, they put him everywhere in his 24 snaps on Sunday, and you'll probably see a lot of that this coming week as well.
All right,
yeah,
go ahead.
I was going to say real quick, I don't find it all that shocking that they went A.J. Dillon for the reasons that you mentioned, Tex. But in addition to that, you see how running backs are getting paid this offseason and into the season with Alvin Kamara and Christian McCaffrey and Dalvin Cook. Seems like smart business to just take a running back and keep that position at a low cost.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. It just surprised me that they did it that early. I had maybe a guy like Josh Kelly from UCLA. He was the guy that I was really interested in maybe early on day 3. There's a couple of those guys, Jones and Williams, both day 3 guys in 2017. I thought that was kind of the approach that they were going to take, especially with needing some help, obviously, again, at receiver, some help at offensive line. I think could have potentially been a big thing on day 1. So it just, when they took it, was a bigger surprise to me than the fact that they drafted a running back.
So you take all the offseason, not a ton of moves in free agency, bunch of surprises on draft day. You hear all of the, statistical models telling you that the Packers weren't a 13-3 team last year and they're due for a bunch of regression this year. What were your thoughts going into the season? What was your thought about the ceiling of this team and maybe potentially the floor as well?
Yeah, I thought a realistic expectation for this team is somewhere in the 10-6 range. I think there's the one score game regression thing I do buy into a fair amount, and the Packers were 8-1 last year in one score games. So that even if that levels out to closer to 500, that takes about 3 wins off the board, and that puts you right about 10-6. And as far as ceiling and floor, I could see this team being a 500 team if the breaks don't go their way, if they get a little bit of bad injury luck. Obviously, if something happens to Rodgers, all bets are off. But with this schedule, the NFC North has a tough one this year. And the Packers certainly are going to run into some tougher quarterbacks. And they got lucky last year with missing Patrick Mahomes when he was out, missing Stafford in week 17. Now that there's a 4-week stretch where I think they get Brady, Kirk Cousins again, John Watson, and then the 49ers in back-to-back weeks. So that's going to be a really tough stretch. I don't see this team going better than 12-4. I think that's a best case scenario. But yeah, somewhere in that middle at 10-6 seems reasonable, but a lot of that is predicated on this offense kind of gelling in Matt LaFleur's second year. And that's the kind of thing that LaFleur has talked about all summer, that Aaron Rodgers has talked about all summer. And you saw the first glimpses of that really coming to fruition against Minnesota.
Well, the Green Bay Packers are closer than the Detroit Lions to 10-6. And if you caught any of the highlights from the Lions game, it might seem like they're a lot closer to 10-6 than the Detroit Lions are. But I mean, to start the season like that, 43 points against a defense that everybody kind of thought, you know what, if it's healthy, it's probably one of the top defenses in the NFL. Aaron Rodgers' revenge tour? Is that what this is, Tex?
There's some of that. There's definitely a little bit of that. There's a motivation factor, I think, with that. He's always been a guy who plays better when he's got a chip on his shoulder. And what better way to put a chip on his shoulder than drafting a guy who you think can be his long-term replacement, right? So between that, he said there were a couple things that he tweaked in the offseason. He went back and looked at some film. It looked like he was setting his feet much better and actually using good fundamentals and footwork, especially on some of his deep balls, which is something he hasn't always done. He's always had a great arm to make up for that. But if he's actually throwing the ball in rhythm and with a good base and good fundamentals, that's going to just change things entirely for him on those intermediate throws and some of those deep balls. And I think you saw that. It was visible to me that he looked like he was much more accurate just overall all across the field against Minnesota. I do think Minnesota's defense is in trouble, to be honest with you, this year. Danielle Hunter being out, again, missing a guy to injury, certainly didn't help. Yannick Ngakoue is probably not entirely up to speed on the defense, but then that cornerback group just got ravaged by departures in the offseason. And the Packers just picked on those guys nonstop in that game. Adams, I think, had 17 targets. Valdez-Scantling went deep a bunch of times and probably should have had, honestly, the team probably should have been over 50 points because they had 3 red zone trips in the first quarter or the early part of the first half. They went field goal, stopped on 4th and 1, and field goal. If they punch any of those in, certainly that's a different story. And then there was a couple of drops by MVS, one on what should have been about a 60-yard touchdown. So they left plays on the field, which is probably a scary thing for defenses thinking about what that team did on Sunday.
Yeah, and you brought up something I wanted to talk about is those Packers wide receivers because, I rewatched the game myself and I couldn't decide whether these Packers wide receivers had taken a big step or if the Vikings' young secondary was that bad. Do you kind of have an opinion on that? A little bit of both, little column A, little column B?
Yeah, that's where I'd be at. Certainly the Adams was going to torch some of these young guys. He's just got such a great release, and I think I saw that the oldest Vikings corner was 24 years old and was a second-year guy or something like that. I mean, putting them up against a guy like Adams is just not fair. But yeah, with MVS and Lazard, those two guys are I think great complementary pieces to Adams because he's kind of your possession guy. He'll run just about any route. You can use him on a lot of intermediate stuff. And then MVS is your deep threat, just that pure speed burner type of guy. And then Lazard is going to be a guy who just he's a big physical body. He's going to make some tough catches, and he's got a little better speed than I think people give him credit for. But I think the work in August, again, everybody really starting to understand this offense, why things are working the way they are. I think that goes a long way. But I do think the matchup against those Vikings corners was a huge part of it as well. And they picked on them early, often, and it certainly paid off.
Now, flip side to the other side of the ball, Tex, and the defense. I know they end up giving up 34 points to a Vikings offense that, I mean, on paper looks pretty good. You got Kirk Cousins, you got Adam Thielen, you got Dalvin Cook. Are you concerned at all about the defense with the Packers right now after 1 week? Can we get a little bit of an overreaction, or is it just something where the defense started to play a certain way and gave up a bunch of points in the fourth quarter?
Yeah, I think there was definitely a level of kind of prevent defense late in that game. They only gave up 10 points, and I mean, it was less than 200 yards through those first three quarters of the game. They came up with a couple of big plays. The safety right down up against the goal line on a great blitz by Jair Alexander. He made a great pick at the end of the first half to give him a chance to score another touchdown as well. So there's lots of big play guys on this team. And I'm confident in this team defending the pass against just about anybody, but the run defense was the issue last year. It was the issue against the San Francisco 49ers twice, including the championship game. And I don't see anything to suggest that has really been fixed. And depending on Kenny Clark's status for the game on Sunday, I'm really concerned about that because I think last year he played 80 to 85% of the snaps as the primary nose tackle and interior tackle. So with him out there, if he can't play on Sunday, if he can't play the next couple of weeks, that's going to be a huge blow to the interior of this defense, because up the middle is probably the easiest place to start picking on this unit.
Well, that segues nicely into our final segment here in the first half of the podcast, which is the injury report. And so let's start right there. Let's talk about Kenny Clark. Obviously, I'm not going to ask you to predict what's going to happen. He left Sunday's game early, did not practice on Wednesday. What's the backup plan there?
Pray, I think.
Okay.
I'm only half kidding
that's
because
apparently been very effective over there in Green Bay lately, so you might be okay.
Well, there's that, yeah. There really isn't, and none of the other guys in the roster are anywhere near the type of player that Clark is. Dean Lowry got a big contract before last season, but he did not play up to it, and he's not really a run stuffing type of guy anyway. He's a more of your athletic 5-tech who can try to kind of collapse the pocket a little bit. They've got a guy in Tyler Lancaster. He's a former undrafted guy out of Northwestern who he can kind of hold the point of attack reasonably well, I think, in the run game, but he's not going to give you any sort of push up front. And you're going to have to kind of adjust some of your fits and things to the linebackers behind him. So yeah, I'm going to be very concerned if he can't play, if Clark can't play, that this team is going to gashed in the run game even more than they already are.
And you mentioned his name a little earlier in the podcast too, Tex, but everybody's favorite former right tackle, Ricky Wagner. What's going on with the right side of the offensive line? Is the O-line in trouble? Is Rick Wagner worthy of playing? What's up with Billy Turner? Let me know.
Yeah, it's a crazy situation because Turner came in, looked like he won the right tackle battle against Wagner in camp. Wagner
was that expected or no?
No,
or
honestly,
that totally out of nowhere.
I think everybody kind of expected that Turner would maintain his spot at right guard, and that Wagner would just kind of step in for Brian Bulaga, and they'd keep the same four, and then just swapping Wagner in. It became pretty clear about 2 weeks into camp that Turner was running ahead at right tackle, and they had always kind of talked up his versatility even when they signed him before last year about the fact that he could kick out to tackle and potentially play there. But I think everybody thought the continuity of keeping him at the same position might be something that they would go with. But I think the biggest shock was when Turner wasn't able to go, the fact that instead of just plugging Wagner in, they moved Elton Jenkins, the second-year guy from Mississippi State, over from left guard out to right tackle to start the game. plugged in Lucas Patrick, who's been a solid backup guard. Well, then Patrick goes out, he gets hurt. They move Jenkins back into guard, and Wagner comes on to play tackle. And for the most part, he played pretty well against Minnesota. Now we get the issue that Lane Taylor, who was starting at right guard and won that job, he's done for the year with a knee injury. So, all right, if Turner and Patrick are both back, you could feasibly play Patrick at right guard, Turner at right tackle, and kick Wagner back to a backup role. It's very much musical chairs there, and I have no idea who's going to be the starters at right guard and right tackle. I think Turner, if he plays, probably starts at one of those spots. But it kind of depends on what they like with the best five that they can put out there. But like I said, Wagner, I thought, played very well. He got matched up on Yannick Ngakoue a couple times and held his own on Sunday. But as a Wisconsin alum myself, I'm certainly rooting for the guy, and I hope he gets out there and gets a chance to play well. But yeah, it's a mess, and none of us really have any more clear idea what to expect than you do at this point.
All right, with that, we are going to take our first break. When we come back, we're going to talk a little bit about the Lions injuries, and then about the matchups, about what's going to happen on Sunday, and then we're going to end with some predictions as well. So stick around. We'll be right back on First Bite. All right, one quick second to address my live chat here and a couple subs that we got. Uncle and Dingo, thank you for the 5 months, and Lefty Detroit, 6 months subscribed to the channel. Appreciate you both. Let me see if there are any quick questions. Are NFL teams allowed to get 50 points? Great question. We'll probably find out. Any truth to the rumors that all the hamstring injuries are because... Okay, I'm not reading that. I should have known, since it was a comment from Nick the Greek. I shouldn't have read it. Yeah, Detroit with the 13-month subscription. Thanks for hanging around, dude. Full year and a month. Let's see. Anything else? You guys are seeming like you're a little down today, which is understandable, and we'll get into why in the next segment.
Stick around.
Stick around. You guys, you only have to sit through 20 more minutes of this. Then you can go off and do happy things.
Until Sunday.
Marvin, you seem to be taking this especially bad. Do I need to call you? Do we need to talk? All right, we're just going to jump right back into it. Chat's being cynical. You guys ready?
Let's do it.
All right. Let me also quit out of Slack so it doesn't make noises like that. Boop. All right. And welcome back to First Bite, our preview podcast for the Detroit Lions Week 2 matchup with the Green Bay Packers. And with us, not as always, but most of the time, our good friend Tex Western from Acme Packing Company. Let's get right into the matchups. And we're going to start with the most beat-up section of the Lions roster. That's their secondary right now. We got Desmond Trufant, who I would say is questionable at best after leaving Sunday's game. Justin Coleman is absolutely out because he's on IR. And then we also have Darryl Roberts, one of the backup outside corners. He didn't practice on Wednesday. The Lions are in a bunch of trouble there, but the good news is looks like Jeff Okudah is probably set to return. He practiced in full on Wednesday, but they also weren't padded, so I think he still kind of has another hump to get over to make sure he's active. But long story short, Lions are short-handed in the secondary. The Packers are coming off a huge performance through the air. Tex, is there any chance for the Lions here?
Well, it's tough for anybody to defend Devontae Adams at full strength. I think, my guess is your best bet is probably just putting Okudah on him, shadowing him all across the field. Assuming Okudah is the number one guy that's left, that's out there.
Right.
At this point, that's about all I feel like he can probably do. I mean, he's going to play, he'll play left. He'll play on the left, the right. He'll play in the slot a little bit. You'll see him kind of all over the place. But, one of the guys, I actually think Alan Lazard could be in for a big day because of his size. Just at 6'5" and about 220 or so, that's a really tough matchup for anybody. And I just think this might be a game where he's able to put that size to good use and, maybe get some good jump ball situations going. So yeah, it'll be interesting. I mean, the Packers have gone a little more towards the 12 personnel, playing a little more heavy lately. They certainly did in that first game against Minnesota. So you'll probably only see 3 receivers, maybe on half of the snaps, maybe even a little less than that. So, but I still think they're going to try to feed Adams as much as they realistically can. Again, 17 targets and 14 catches last week. And I think this offense is really good. This passing game is certainly going to cook through him. I'll just be interested to see how much they start trying to work the tight ends in the passing game, because I think they had a combined 3 targets last week. So spreading the ball around, Rodgers, he'll zero in on Adams, but those other guys are definitely going to be a big part of the game plan as well. And look for a couple of play action shot plays to Valdez-Scantling as well, trying to get him loose going deep.
Ryan, I
Hey, Jeremy.
Yeah?
Would you say that the Lions are hamstrung at quarterback? All right.
Do I need to end this right now? I will end this right now. The thing I was actually going to ask you, Ryan, is do you think this is an opportunity maybe for the Lions to get the safeties involved a little bit? A guy like Tracy Walker maybe on Alan Lazard is something they maybe considered. Obviously, he's kind of their tight end cover guy as well, so it depends what formation the Packers are in there. But do you think there's a chance that maybe they cross-train a little bit and let Tracy Walker kind of use that physical nature of himself to get involved?
Do you know what really sucks? Jaron Curse is suspended.
Right? I was just thinking that too. He would be kind of a good matchup here.
Yeah, especially you need a guy to fill in the slot. That is what Jaron Curse did last year. So it's a huge bummer that the Lions don't have him. But yeah, my question that I want to throw to Tex, because I mean, I agree. Like, they're probably going to go like 3 safeties. You might even see 4 safeties on the field at sometimes, just because the Lions are, in such a bad spot with their cornerbacks. But I was going to ask Tex, like, how malleable is LaFleur's game, like, in terms of his approach? Because the Lions really got gashed up the middle when it came to the run game. Do you think that, he might mix it up a little bit more, might, turn to the run offense a little bit more?
Yeah, I think that's definitely a possibility, at least. Again, with those matchups last week, it was clear that they were going to come out throwing the ball. But certainly he focuses very heavily on that run game, kind of running that outside zone type of run game. So that works great with Aaron Jones, who's just a tremendous one cut back. The kind of cutback style is plays right into his style of play. And I think that's certainly an area where I would expect the Packers to focus a little bit, especially early on. LaFleur always kind of scripts those first 10 to 15 plays on offense. And so I think we'll get a good feel for what the Packers want to try to do and kind of feeling out the waters a little bit in the first quarter or so, and then kind of see where they go from there. They did a little bit of that against Minnesota. It was a lot of variable formations and personnel groups in those maybe first 10 to 12 snaps. You had a couple of jet sweeps in there. You had a lot of motion. I think those are things that they really want to get involved with the offense in this second year in this system to kind of distract the eyes a little bit of the defenders and kind of get them looking one way and get a lot of that misdirection type of stuff going. So that's, I think, going to be a lot of the stuff in the run game, some end arounds, some jet sweeps. You get that outside zone going, the cutback type of runs. I think that'll be a big factor as well in the game plan.
Well, if I'm the Detroit Lions, I think the antidote to all that is not get a better defense, because it's too late for that. It's not let the defense get on the field. And I think you kind of alluded it to in the first segment there. Packers might be a little bit vulnerable running the ball. So let's talk about that matchup. The Lions potentially running the ball against that Packers run defense. We saw what Adrian Peter can somehow still do last week against a good defense in Chicago.
Lions legend Adrian Peterson.
Is that a matchup you think the Lions can exploit and just bleed as much clock as possible? Because we know the Lions love trying to do that, just bleed clock.
Yeah, I think they've got to. Like I mentioned earlier, the run defense is by far the weakest part of this defense. And again, if Clark is out, that just makes that much more of an advantage for Detroit. So I'd also like to just point out that the Packers are the only team in the NFC North to have never employed a running back by the name of Adrian Peterson. Fun fact there.
Technicality there, but I'll accept it.
Yeah. But yeah, no, that's I think that's a great approach for Detroit here is keep the ball out of Rodgers' hands as much as you possibly can. And obviously you can't do any damage when he's on the sidelines. So the Packers love to play light personnel on defense. They've been really nickel and dime heavy for years, really since Mike Pettin showed up. And they really don't have a consistent, reliable guy at that second inside linebacker spot in the 3-4. So you're going to see a little bit probably of Chris Barnes. He's an undrafted rookie. He played about 15 snaps, looked good in limited action against Minnesota. Had a nice tackle for loss on a screen to Dalvin Cook, so that was nice. But you'll also see probably safety Raven Green. Looks like he'll be back. He'll probably kind of play that dime linebacker spot quite a bit. And what'll be interesting is if the Packers, honestly, is if they're malleable on defense. If they're getting gashed in the run game, do they actually go to more of a base personnel? I think that's going to be a real interesting point. If they can't get ahead early, if it's a close game, or if the Lions are leading kind of midway through the game, they may have to switch back to kind of playing some personnel groups that they're not comfortable or not used to playing. With going a little bit bigger up front on defense. So that'll be something I'll be watching as well.
So if the Lions stand a chance in this game, Tex, it's going to fall on Matthew Stafford's shoulders, as usual. It always happens that way. Is there a certain part of the secondary that is vulnerable to a passing attack? I mean, I know you said that it seems like the secondary is pretty, built to last with Jaire Alexander and whatnot, but is there something that Matthew Stafford can take advantage of on Sunday?
Yeah, I think probably the weakest spot right now is at free safety with Darnell Savage. He's a super talented guy, real fast, great athlete, but he's been known to bite a little bit and get a little over aggressive. And so I think if you can get him maybe biting on some play action and then go over the top, I think that's a good area where you want to focus on. Alexander, I think, is on the cusp of being a Pro Bowl, all pro type of player. So I would generally try to probably avoid throwing in his direction for the most part. You can make some headway on Kevin King as far as forcing him to tackle in space, because that's definitely not a strength of his game. So if you can get the ball into a receiver's hands in space around King, I think that's a matchup that you can make some productivity out of. But yeah, if there's one guy in that secondary that I would be looking to attack right now, it's probably Savage, just with his aggressiveness.
Yeah, and obviously Kenny Galladay's status uncertain at this point, did not practice Wednesday. We saw the Lions kind of have a moderate amount of success without him last week. They didn't have any of that other thing. Quintus Cephas looked good. It started to develop some chemistry with Matthew Stafford, but obviously that's going to play a big part in whether the Packers will be able to stop those Lions wide receivers. But let's get into our favorite part of the show, and that's our preview part, where we call it the one thing we think we know about the Lions game. It doesn't have to be a prediction of the score. It doesn't have to be necessarily, who wins. It can just be like, hey, I think Aaron Rodgers is going to throw 15 touchdowns. Something crazy like that. It doesn't have to be crazy either. That is crazy. Let's be clear. I know the Lions fans probably don't think that's crazy, but I think it's crazy. So Ryan, let's start with you. What is the one thing you think you know about Lions versus Packers week 2?
I think I know exactly how this game's going to unfold.
Let's hear it.
We talked about it. The Lions are going to try to run the clock. They're going to try to drain the clock. They're going to try to keep it to a 1-score possession because they want to trust Matthew Stafford. It's not going to work. The Packers are going to take a big lead in the third quarter. And, I mean, it's going to be insurmountable because from the sounds of things, it seems like with the Lions a little shorthanded at receiver, potentially if Kenny Galladay doesn't play, and the Packers secondary being one of their strong suits, I don't know if the Lions can dig themselves out of a hole, even if it's just 2 scores.
All right, Tex, what about you? What's the one thing you think you know about Sunday's game?
I think I know that Aaron Rodgers is going to get at least 2 free plays in this game with his hard count. He got 3, I think, against the Vikings. A couple of them just turned into quick, easy first downs on 3rd and shorts, and then he hit Valdez Scantling for a 40-yard on a 3rd one. So I think the whole COVID situation with no fans in the stands, obviously that was a big part of it for the Packers being able to use that hard count in the dome last week. Certainly they would be able to do it anyway coming back to Lambeau Field for this game, but it's become such a big part of Rodgers's his whole presence is just that hard count that somehow it amazes me that he doesn't get more of his own linemen on false starts with it at this point. But yeah, I think that's probably the one thing. And if the guys bite, then those free plays with the receivers that the Packers have, that's going to be bad news for anybody.
Yeah, we've seen plenty of those at the hands of Rodgers, and yeah, not my favorite. The one thing I think I know is I think Ryan's wrong. I think this is going to be a close game. I think the matchup wise, it makes sense for the Lions to run a lot, and they will. And I think based on what they did against Chicago, they'll be moderately successful at it. Maybe even fully successful at it. And now I don't think that means the Lions are going to run up the score or anything like that. They'll probably eventually fall behind, and then eventually going to have to scramble and put the ball in Matthew Stafford's hands, and who knows what happens there, because we don't know really what this Lions offense will look like at full health or whether they'll be at full health on Sunday. But I mean, all you have to really do is look at last year. Like the Lions play the Packers well. They were leading in all 60. Like the Packers did not hold a lead in either of those 2 games, and they still won the 2. And I was watching Matt LaFleur's press conference today, and he said it was a miracle that the Packers won both those games. And some would call it a miracle, some would call it an act of Blake Cleatman, or what is his name? Blake Cleatman? Cleat Blakeman? There it is. I just reversed his name. Cleat Blakeman.
I like it though. Blake Cleatman.
I hate to say it, but who's officiating the game this week?
We are
okay.
well.
I'm sure Lions fans have been all over that one.
But I expect this to be a well-fought game because, I mean, really, you go back years, and there hasn't been much of a blowout in this series since, there was the Week 17, 2 years ago when the Lions beat them 31-0 in a meaningless game for both of them. But in general, like, I think these two teams are, in terms of their talent, I think they're very much lined up. In terms of, in terms of the matchups, I think they line up well for both teams in different areas. So I do think this is going to be a close game. I'm not going to pick the Lions to win. I'll spoil that right now, but I do think it's going to be a close game.
Cool point about the run game. If the Packers can't get into 3rd and longs, that's when the defense seems to struggle. It's when they get those stops on 1st and 2nd down, get into 3rd and 7+, they let the Smiths and Rashawn Gary pin their ears back. That's when teams really get into trouble. And so if you can keep 3rd and manageable for most of this game against this Packers defense, you'll probably be just fine and keep it competitive. So that's where I would that's one of the areas I'd look to kind of see where this game is going to go.
Well, let's hope the Lions can run the ball well on 1st and 2nd down then to put themselves in good position for a 3rd down pass, because they love being traditional.
All right, before we close out, I am going to give one question to the chat because I think it's a very fan servicey question, and I am all about servicing our fans. Uncle Indigo asks, what does Tex think about the refs from last year?
There were some questionable calls. I'll be the first to give you that. Questionable is probably an overly generous assessment of what happened in that game. So yeah, it was a little ugly. I'll be honest, I didn't get to watch actually most of that game live. I was driving out in the middle of Utah on a vacation, so I had it pulled in on the XM radio, so I didn't actually get to see those calls live. But yeah, watching them back on the replay, I think I can't remember if it was the first one or second one, but the hands to the face that just was pretty egregiously a poor call. So yeah, we benefited from it to be sure, but I don't like winning that way. But I like winning, so
You take it however you get it.
Jeremy, I have one last question for everybody.
Yeah.
Real quick. Because I got to get my betting fix in.
Oh, boy.
Over or under a half a flea flicker in this game?
Please let it be the under. Even though it was successful last year and the one time it's ever been successful in the NFL level. 0.
Packers won't run that, so I'm going to go under.
No, that's
too.
bad. I want the Packers to run because it doesn't work in the NFL.
Unless it works in Lambeau Field with Marvin Hall.
All right, Tex, let me give a moment for you to take the stage. Let us know where we can find you on Twitter, social media, what sort of stuff we can expect from Acme Packing Company this week, anything that you think Lions fans might be interested in.
Yeah, thanks. You can check out the site. It's at acmepackingcompany.com, all spelled out. On Twitter, the blog is at Acme Packing Co. You can find me at Tex Western. We've had some interesting kerfuffles with a couple of Packers beat writers this week about the value of advanced analytics and DVOA. So expect us to keep leaning into the analytics side of things over the next week or two here. Because we're a pretty numbers heavy bunch. And so we believe in marrying both the numbers and the tape together, unlike some of the beat writers for the team. So if you're numbers heavy, numbers savvy, I think you might find some interesting stuff at Acme Packing Company this week.
Is there any chance you can explain to me in 30 seconds why the Lions have a higher DVOA than the Packers right now?
I can't tell you about the Lions. I know why the Vikings have a higher DVOA than the Packers, and that's because they actually averaged more yards per play. Yeah. So they don't have it really weighted for garbage time at this point. So I know Aaron Schatz a little bit, the Football Outsiders guy, and he was quick to note that while DVOA is a per play efficiency, their drive stats have the Packers as the best offense in the NFL based on last week's game, based on per drive stats. So that's something worth. Yeah, we've got that going for us.
I knew I shouldn't have let you talk more. Now we're all sad again. Thanks for that.
Sorry about that.
No, you're good. You're good. Thanks again, Tex. Thanks to you, Ryan, and thanks to you, the listeners. Appreciate you listening. We'll be back here on our Twitch channel live right after the Lions-Packers game, twitch.tv/Pride of Detroit, and then later around 7 or 8 p.m. we'll do our live POD cast, full hour. So make sure you're here for that. But until then, it's chaos. Be kind. Go Lions. All right. And we're out. Chat, I don't think we're going to hang around that long because y'all aren't too active today. I do have to say thank you to Uncle Indigo, who gave out 5 gifted subs to the channel, so enjoy the gifts. Brisket, Jake, Cryptic, and Dishnet, and I think I missed somebody, but I don't see it right there, so thanks for all that. Thanks, Nick the Greek, for the 100 bits. Chris joined us.
Yep, I was watching, so just give me a second.
Oh, perfect. Everyone say hi to Chris.
Hold on one second.
Chris,
can you guys even hear me?
I can.
Yeah, we can hear you. I'm going to sign off, but real quick, thanks, Tex, and I'm sorry about your Columbus Blue Jackets.
Oh, yeah, that's bad. That's a bad thing.
Anyway.
How about that?
That's what I want to hear.
Uncle Indigo, thanks for another gifted sub to Lions Blood. I know what you're trying to do, and we're at 68, I believe, so wink, wink, nudge, nudge, in case anyone else wants to step up. But Tex, if you got to go, you can go. We'll probably just hang around for a minute or two, talk to chat, but up to you.
This is for me, but
what's that? Sorry, you lagged out there for a second.
I got a couple minutes if anybody has anything.
Sure, yeah.
So.
Chat, if you have any more questions about the Packers, go ahead and shout out anything in the chat. And
about what scotch I'm drinking or any of that fun stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, actually, I want to know about the scotch. I'm desperate. I drink mostly bourbon, but holy crap, I need more whiskey.
Yeah, right now I've got a Tomatin 12-year. It's a Highland. It's more of a space side stuff. I tend to stay away from the real heavy peaty, smoky stuff. I do enjoy it every once in a while, but
you said peaty.
Tomatin I think is.
Oh yeah. So just finish up. Sorry.
No, Tomatin's one of my favorite little distilleries from kind of the Highlands region. They're not as well known as like a Glenlivet, or a Macallan, but they've still got some really good stuff. So I would encourage you to look it up.
There is a someone who follows me. I know he's a Lions fan. I think it's David Mara on Twitter, who's like a big whiskey guy. I know he's in like Ireland and kind of reviews a lot of whiskeys. You said peaty though, and it made me think of Scotch ale, which I haven't had in forever. And Jeremy will attest, I am really missing some Dirty Bastard from Founders right now. It's good beer.
That is a high quality beer there.
I really do need some Scotch, but I would probably just be an idiot and mix it as a sour. So.
I mean, I'm a bourbon guy too. We went, my girlfriend and I and a couple of friends went down and did the Bourbon Trail last year over the 4th of July. I think we hit 7 or 8 distilleries over the course of about 4 days. So we had that was a really good trip.
We have one of those 7 Grands in LA. It was like the whiskey bar. It's like they have like hundreds of different whiskeys there, and you can get anything as like neat on the rocks, old fashioned, or as a sour. And I like going there, and they usually had a good amount of crap. Hold on 1 second.
Good amount of crap.
No, I accidentally closed out something I was saving from Jeremy. So excuse me a second. I have to redo this. No, but I've been drinking a lot. Like Japanese has been like the big thing, although it's so expensive now.
Yeah, I haven't gotten into the Japanese whiskeys much yet. I got one bottle as a gift for Christmas last year, and I enjoyed it, but I haven't really gone full in. Yeah. I don't remember what it is off the top of my head. I'd have to go down and check it. But
chat wants to know if you've
it's definitely much more in the Scotch region than the bourbon region. So
chat wants to know if any of you have had Dalwhinnie. I don't know what that is.
I'm trying to think of it. I think I've had it.
I have not had this. As I just said, I drink a lot more bourbon than I do Scotch. My brother is the Scotch drinker. Like my brother will get this kind of stuff, but when I'm out, I'm usually just grabbing like, Buffalo Trace, Maker's Mark, or any kind of local stuff.
Dalwhinnie, I think, is a Highland too, and I now that I'm thinking about it, I don't know that I've had it, but it's similar in style to like a Tomatin or Glenlivet, if I recall right. So that would probably be right up my alley. I'll have to give that one a shot.
Chat wants to know, do you think Aaron Jones is going to have a good game? Probably someone with him on his fantasy team. Yep.
I do. Like we were talking about earlier, the outside zone, the cutback. I think some of those matchups look really, really good this week. And they like getting him involved in the passing game. So if you're in a PPR league, you can probably expect 4 to 5 catches out of the backfield too.
Another question: does everyone hate Aaron Rodgers, or just everyone in Detroit?
I mean, for the most part, Packers fans don't hate the guy. I mean, he can certainly come off as a grumbly dude, and I can understand why people might be put off by his general demeanor a little bit sometimes. But I don't know. I get far more annoyed by like a Tom Brady demeanor than an Aaron Rodgers demeanor personally.
Let me
just that aw shucks crap. Yeah, no, absolutely, totally, 100% agree. You remember when he put that like MAGA hat in there, and he was like, "Oh, why are you bringing it up? Why? I wasn't. Oh shucks, I wasn't bringing attention to it. Yeah, you were. You put it in there."
Let me ask you about before this year, because a lot of analytics guys and maybe people even beyond analytics were saying that Rodgers had lost it. He'd never been kind of his old self. Was there anyone that kind of welcomed the Jordan Love pick and was like, we're starting to see the beginning of the end with Aaron Rodgers. It's time to move on. It's time to start thinking about that.
We've got 1 or 2 guys on staff at APC who are pretty critical of Rodgers, more so than really, I think, most of the Packers blogosphere and the media. And it's some of our guys who are a little more heavy into the analytics, right? But I think they showed the numbers kind of they bear out that decline that he seems to have been on since probably the last stretch in 2016, that run the table stretch. And I think part of it is a supporting cast issue. And to me, I mean, I mentioned it earlier, a big part of it is the fundamentals, the throwing from a good base and actually setting your feet and driving into the throw. I feel like he's, over the last couple of years, he's been so willing to just trust his great arm to do everything that, now he mentioned it this week that he really focused heavily this offseason on strengthening his legs. And I think that's bearing at least it showed itself on Sunday, just the way he was stepping into his throws and was pinpoint on everything.
Question for us. Do you think Swift will continue to get goal line carries? No. I think that situation in which he rushed for his touchdown was kind of special in that he's really in there for a lot of 1 minute drills, 2 minute drills, end of half, end of game drills. And so that was an end of first half touchdown that he scored. So I think that's just kind of the sub packages that he was in for the first week. I do expect that to expand in time, but I still think Adrian Peterson is probably, if the Lions are going goal line, he's going to be the back. Rodgers going to the Lions after Stafford is traded? ? We're not going to answer that question. We're not even going to think about that. Anything else, chat? I think we'll close things up here. Let Tex get on his way. Get all this up on social media, on YouTube, on all of our podcast platforms. So in case you missed anything, you can listen.
Yeah, I just came in to steal the audio. That's all. Yeah. So don't mind
me. All right. Well, then I think we're done here. Let's go raid somebody.
Sorry, Jeremy, let me just say thanks for hopping on Zach with the Zach and the guys at the APC pod too this week. I know they were very happy to have you on and wanted to give you a hat tip there as well.
Appreciate
so thanks
that.
for that.
Yeah, no worries. Should we go raid Reno? That's what chat's saying. All right, Tex, I'll let you go before we do all that fun stuff. Thanks again for joining us. Good luck on Sunday.
Screw you.
Oh, wow. Did you just boot him? Wow.
I did not. No, I did not. I did.
I thought you just booted him.
I did nothing of the sort. I have all the respect in the world for Tex, except for the part of him being a Packers fan.
Over under on Swift getting the first pass. That's not really how over under works, but I think there's
I need a number here. Like, are we talking minutes into the game, or is it like if you're just gonna bet that, you need to give me a money line, a plus minus on that's a prop bet pretty much. That's a prop bet. What you're doing?
Yeah, he'll get a pass. Are you asking like when in the game he'll get the pass, his first pass?
And so I remove.
No, I think whether or not he's going to get the first pass.
Yeah.
So what are the odds that he gets the first pass?
It's random at that point. I don't know. I'd say a 15% chance.
15% chance would be a plus
like 800 or something.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. That would be like a plus. Yeah, about like plus 750, I would say.
Yeah, I don't know. They're going to get involved in the passing game. I assume you're asking the question to like send a message, right? Send a message to him saying, "Hey, you dropped that ball, but we still got faith in you." I hope they don't need to do that sort of thing, but basically every Lions player and coach that went in front of a microphone today or this week was just like, "We haven't lost an ounce of faith in the guy." Matthew Stafford said today like he'd throw that same pass 100 times out of 100 with him still in there, so yeah, I don't know. I think it's possible. Sure. I hope they don't need to send that message necessarily. I hope he just knows it. But like if they ran the exact same play, that'd be wild. It wouldn't really make a lot of sense, though, not in the red zone. Anyways, I think we're gonna end it there. Let's go raid Reno. I don't know what he's playing right now. He was playing Among Us. I think he might be moving to Fall Guys.
I think he's still playing Among Us right now. I don't
know. If you guys are into video gaming or if you want to talk more Lions, I'm sure he's willing to answer a bunch of Lions questions. So feel free to go over there, hang out for a little bit. I might even join in with some Fall Guys after I take care of my own business a little bit. But thank you all for joining us. Like I said, we'll do a post-game podcast or post-game Twitch session right after the game on Sunday, and then we'll do our full POD cast after that. Might even have something special this Saturday. We'll see. Kind of working that out. But other than that, thank you guys for joining us. Go hang out with Reno, and we'll see you Sunday. Go Lions! All right, we are rated out of here.
Cool. What was that? What are you doing on Saturday? What's going on?
We might be doing a video game day, maybe with Twitch things. I know. I think who was it? It was either Zeus or Joshua who was asking for it.
All right. Well, I know. I've been.
I forgot about Madden Sim too. Whoops.
Yeah,
we're doing Madden Sim, obviously.
I know I've been meaning to like just sit down and like rename my personal account again and maybe do some just video game and like football Q&A stuff on there. I might just do those on Monday.
Okay.
Unless you want me to do that on the POD channel or something, but
we can talk about it. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, I got some old like Japanese RPGs and some other stuff, just random ass video games. But I do want to kind of sit there and talk about some football stuff because I need some other escape in my life right now. Yeah, let's see. So I'll have that for you tonight.
Okay.
Mike just asked me about a microphone, which is good because it's really. Although he told me this was going to be a short thing, and he just turned in like an hour-long podcast.
That was a little bit longer
and it went,
normally, yeah.
And it went 30. I had to add in an extra break. It went 30 minutes before he took a break, so I haven't told him about that. But
also good is that he got feedback on his microphone in the comment section. I don't know if you saw that.
I think that's what finally got him to like. He sent me a picture of some $60 mic on Amazon. So
yeah,
I told him that would be a problem.
He's well, yeah. The guy said, I really like this. Keep him awesome interview. One small piece of constructive criticism. When you were speaking, you have an echo in your voice. In this one and the one with Dan Miller, it sounds like you're in the basement or bathroom kind of echo. And then I told him straight up like, hey, we're working on getting a mic for Mike.
Yeah,
I don't know if Mike saw that or not, but probably.
I'm sure he's a nice.
Well, either way, he did DM me on Slack a picture of something he's looking on Amazon, which it's cheap, but it's again better than what he's got. So,
how's everybody?
I mean, this thing's fucking old as shit. I need to get a new one. If I did, that'd be another.
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing: is like the only way for me to upgrade to this point is to go straight to getting a Focusrite and an XLR mic.
Right.
So that's about $400. That's at least a $400 project right there.
Right.
So.
I'm super afraid that this one's just gonna break on me because the last one did, and like all the time Zazu's running and like a cord yanks out. I'm like, fuck, that's gonna be the one that kills this thing.
Yeah, this thing's trooped for 7 fucking years right here. I've had this thing since I started my college football podcast, which I did for 2 seasons before I applied to write for